Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm John Dykes, and today we are recording in the penalty spot in Sword Street in Glasgow. I've got to say I'm delighted to finally meet Tony Curran. Welcome to the show, Tony. How are you?
It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
Your name has popped up a few times on the live discussion on ACSOM, so thank you for your support. But last December, you gave us like a swag bag of gifts for our charity weekender. Not only that, you then sent them all over the world once the winners were announced. So thanks for that. That was really much appreciated. And it was things from your movie career, Tony. Things that you'd picked up over the years.
Yeah, no, thank you. There was a lot of Vincent and the Doctor that I sent around. People were very kindly donated to, and you obviously, recently you won the treble. You won those awards for ACSOM. Congratulations for that, my man. That was great. But it was just nice to be able to contribute to the charities and raise money for ACSOM and get the word out there that this is if you want to watch some Celtic content, this is a great show to well-informed punters, you might say, and it's fun, it's informative, and if you like a bit of music as well, obviously, that's great as well.
We throw a wee bit of that in when we can. We were talking this morning about culture, about Celtic, and a massive part of the heritage of Celtic, of course, is charity as well, Tony. And you're over in Scotland. You're based in LA now?
Yeah, Los Angeles, yeah.
You're back over here, and one of the things you did, obviously, is visit Celtic Park. I'm guessing that is one of the things that's always in your mind, and you visit your family as well. But whilst you're up at Celtic Park, you got involved with the foundation event up there. Go and tell us a wee bit about that.
Yeah, no, Jane Maguire, who works for the Celtic Foundation, she contacted me quite a few months ago now, and obviously our friends Martin Compston, Gianni Capaldi were all asked to be ambassadors, which was a huge honour. And because of recent events globally with COVID and so on, I haven't been home for almost 3 years, which my mum has not forgiven me for, but she's happy to see me now. But as I was back, I spoke to Jane, Celtic FC Foundation, and I said, is there anything I can do while I'm over? And she mentioned the Celtic Sleep Out, which we went, I think 110 people were at Celtic Park, and it was wonderful to be there at that time of night, and obviously through the night, just thinking about goals and the atmosphere of being in that place and sleeping over. And I think we raised over £40,000 for Celtic FC the foundation. So it was a great night, and there's also coming up is the Christmas appeal as well, which I've tweeted about, and if you can check that out, which is also going to raise some money for the foundation as well, which is a great thing. So
it's incredible. What they do, Tony, is one of the things I'm most proud of when I say I'm a Celtic fan is the charitable work that they do. For you to spend the night at Celtic Park, looking around a stadium that you've spent so much time in your youth, but let's think back to the time where you appeared on the park again for a charity event. Tell us about that. Lubo versus Henrik.
Yeah, it was Henrik's Heroes versus Lubo's Legends. Yeah, no, that was a great day. I think the day before there was a cup final at Hampden, and it was that was the first treble. Obviously Aberdeen scored first, I believe. Was it Armstrong who equalised? Was it? And then I was there with my nephew. I was there with Martin and my nephew Barry Johnson. And then, of course, there was just that amazing moment where the Wizard of Oz with those big size 12s scored that incredible goal, and it sent the Celtic fans into ecstatic scenes. So that was a great night. And then, of course, the next day we were on the bus with Henrik and Tom Boyd and Bobo and Harold Brackback, everybody, and we were on our way to Celtic Park. And I said to you earlier on, my nephew Barry Johnson at the time, working for Adidas, pulled out he gave us some boots, me, Ross McCall, Martin Compston, but they were very, very, very brightly coloured boots, and ones that Bruni wears actually. So I pulled them out and gave them to Martin and Ross, and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to wear these. They're a bit bright, aren't they? And I was sort of pulling them out, and all we heard from the back of the bus was, hey, what do you got there? What are you doing? And I turned around and I said, oh, I've got some football boots from my nephew in Germany. And it was Henrik. And he's like, whoa, those are very bright. He goes, you know, those aren't football boots. These are football boots. And he pulled up these sort of black, you know, dirty, polished black Adidas Mundials that he wears, you know. So we all had a good laugh about that, you know. But I mean, playing at Celtic Park obviously was a dream for any Celtic fan, and there was 60,000 people there. So Tom Boyd said to me, what position do you play? I said, obviously I'm not a footballer, but maybe right wing, right midfield. And he went, all right then, left back. And at one point during the game, because I kept tearing up the wing, he's like, Curran, get back. Later on, he said to my brother Paul, he said, Paul, your brother's an actor, aye? And Paul said, aye. He goes, how? He goes, because he doesn't take direction very well. So, no, but obviously it was a joy, and we're in the changing rooms with Henrik, Bobo, Tom, and it was taking pictures, autographs. It was a real joyous day, you know.
The thing is, when you look at a career in film, there must be moments where you pinch yourself anyway, but for a Celtic fan, you know, spending time with some of the guys that you've watched as heroes. We spoke earlier about the 6-2 game.
Yeah.
And then you're in a bus and you're on a park with Henrik Larsson. It's incredible, isn't it?
No, it was incredible. It is. I mean, you can only imagine what it was. Just, I said earlier, and it was just for a moment thinking what it would be like to be a Celtic player or feel like a Celtic legend, but like going towards the park. I mean, you can only imagine what it was like back in '67 when the Lisbon Lions arrived back at Celtic Park at Paradise with the European Cup, and those moments, scenes of them coming off the bus and then, you know, going round Celtic Park with the trophy. You know, iconic images, but you know, obviously. But getting off a bus at Celtic Park with a bunch of celebrities and legendary players was an absolute dream come true and a joy. You know, I hope we get to do it again. What
was it like with the full stadium? I mean, in terms of the atmosphere, you hear about people crumbling European nights, it inspires people. What was the atmosphere like when you're on the park?
Oh God, it's incredible. The first thing I noticed was it was like a billiard table. Mm-hmm. Well, we got to go on it beforehand and obviously warm up, and obviously we were the treble winning, you know, day before, so we'd had a few libations. Please drink responsibly. But everybody's feeling a bit ropey. But it was just like you're pinching yourself. And I think at the end of the game, I did a live video to a bunch of my mates, New Yorkers and people from London, Glasgow, Los Angelinos. Just I was showing them around the park, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's amazing!" You know, that everybody was happy that you were there. You know, had some family in the stands. But well, I think what you felt, you know, even being whatever, you're an actor or whatever anybody did who wasn't a footballer, there was the warmth of the Celtic fans, and it was good for you, pal, you know, and it must be a great experience, and it was, you know. Even, I mean, doing the Celtic sleepover, just being there at night with no fans in the stadium, was kind of beautiful, surreal, and a weirdly romantic, if I can put it like that. You know, it was a sort of the stadium emanates and brings up so many memories. When I was trying to go to sleep, I said to you earlier, all I kept thinking about was Henrik nutmegging your man and then chipping it over Klaus for the fifth goal in the 6-2 game. I kept reliving Celtic goals that had been scored at that end, you know. So no wonder I never got any sleep.
A special place. The other thing, when I go to Celtic Park now, I do think back to the older days where I'm going with my dad in the jungle, a completely different stadium, but the same kind of feeling, the same energy within that. Yeah. What's your earlier memories, Tony, going to Celtic Park?
Well, I mean, one of my earliest memories, well, my mum, we live in Kings Park, and we've always lived there. My mum's lived there for 54 years, and we'd be in the back garden, and as a 5-year-old to 6-year-old, I'd always hear what they would call the Hampden roar, and you hear that, you know, that little moment of silence before the eruption. And I was there, you know, Celtic or whoever, Scotland, were playing, you'd hear that noise, and it was sort of getting your bones. So, and then of course it was for me. It was like walking or jumping on the bus through Brigton to to Celtic Park, and I'd be like 8 or 9 years old, which I don't think kids do that anymore these days, and there's like 70, 80, 75,000 people there. It was the old adage, "Gonna geezer lifty, mister," because at the time the turnstiles were up to there, and you'd stand, you didn't have a ticket, you'd stand in front of someone and, "All right, mate," and someone would just throw you over, and then it'd be you, your mates, and you'd be like, "Oh, we're in," and then you'd be walking up into the jungle. And just as you said earlier on, the heat as soon as you went in there, and the low gantry where the cameras were, and that sort of collective sort of energy of the fans, and then the away fans, it was just an incredible atmosphere. And obviously a lot of the European nights, I remember, Jackie Jakanowski. There was that. What was it? The Partizan. Was it the 4-3 game? Or that was
5-4 in the night.
5-4 in the night. Yeah. I mean, I was at that game, and just the atmosphere was. I mean, it's very different now, obviously, with the 60,000 seater. But being able to go to Celtic Park at that time, and also going to Hampden as well for big games, like I was at the semi-final against Hearts when we were 1-0 down in the centenary season in the Celtic end, and I was at the final. Gallagher was it? Kevin, he scored first again, and then we equalised, and then. And then with McAvenny, we went on to win it. But I was talking to Tosh McKinley the other night, the Celtic Tommy Burns story, and he was saying that it was Billy Stark and Tommy Burns, and they were saying when they got the equaliser, they're like, okay, maybe we'll get it into. Apparently at that time it wasn't extra time; it was a replay, a final on the Wednesday. He said, and he sort of said to me, he goes, Stark said to Burns, or vice versa, he goes, right, let's go on and win this, because they were going to Gran Canaria the next day, or a couple of days later they were going to Tenerife on holiday, and they might have had to change their plans, let's go on and win this. And I always have this image, even you see it on TV, but I remember looking at Caesar, looking at Billy McNeil, and all he was doing was like, up that bar, get up that bar, and his suit was waving. I get goosebumps thinking about that, and was like, go on, win it, and the ball came over, Mark McGee, and then it was obviously. It was McGee, and then it was McAvenny made the touch.
That finish, though, when you look at it, how many times have we seen a striker putting that over the bar?
I mean, unbelievable how, his agility, Frank McAvenny there, and how he could have went anywhere, that ball, because it was coming at him with pace, but that feeling was incredible, and just going to Celtic Park, going to Hampden, going to other away grounds, Tynecastle, or going to Ibrox at the time, it's fond memories, but just nobody was sitting down, there was no seats, you were terracing, so fond memories.
I follow you on social media, and you posted, I think last night, a tremendous picture of a family member with Jockstein and Joe Beltrami at Celtic Park. Talk to us about your family connection to Celtic.
Yeah, it's my mum. My mum's dad, my papa, as I call him, my grandfather, Tommy Riley, my mum's dad. Yeah, he was a scout for Celtic from the late 60s up through the early 70s. Friend of Jock Stein, probably a, God bless, friend of Bertie, friend of the Lisbon Lions. And I've mentioned it before. It was him and Sean Fallon. And I think I read about it recently, which I didn't realise. He was at Ibrox. Danny McGrain was playing at a game against England, I believe, under 18s. And my papa, Tommy, was there with Sean Fallon. They spotted him. Apparently, Danny was playing out of position that night. He was playing right midfield. They got battered, apparently, by England. But anyway, the pitch was a bit of a mud bath, but he came off, and Danny didn't think he played too well. But afterwards, my papa... I don't know if it was that night or the night after, but they went up to Drumchapel and they said, can we speak to you, Danny, about possibly signing you for Celtic, you know, and then apparently went up and if I can talk about this, and I don't know if it was Danny or Danny's family said, "Oh, that's great, thank you, Mr. Fallon, Mr. Riley, but do you know that I'm a Protestant?" And maybe there's this is, I'm pretty sure it's true. He goes, my papa said, I do, son, I know that you're a Protestant, but we don't care if you're a Protestant, Catholic, you know, Jewish, Muslim, or you come from another planetary system, as long as you can play football, son, you can play for Celtic. So, and you know, they obviously scouted Danny, and the rest, as they say, is history. So yeah, no, I've been, but my papa was, he was very much invested into boxing at the time as well, and he was a scout for Celtic. So yeah, to have that part of my family with Celtic as well is obviously, it makes you very proud.
Absolutely. This is the interesting thing about Celtic. Danny McGrange told me this story, and it's in my book. Yeah. Danny was the first ever person I interviewed for my first book, and he told me that story. So your papa's named in the book, which is over there, and you can take that away. So I love the fairy tale at Celtic. I really do. I love the fairy tale element, and I've read over the years that there will be something cinematic, Celtic related, a movie, a big budget movie. It's never materialised, Tony. Is that something that you think would work on the silver screen?
Well, I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, if you look at obviously, recently Bend It Like Bertie is on right now. Jim's play. I haven't seen it. I've heard it's wonderful. Is it the 65 Cup run? And then the Tommy Burns story. Well, even in the centenary year, there was the Celtic story in the theatre. But there's so much richness and so much romanticism and characters and legendary moments within the Celtic club. I don't see why not. I think there could very well be a film that's attached to it, whether it's to do with the Lisbon Lions or whatever it may be. I think there's so much possibilities there, and and then of course anybody who's a Celtic fan and an actor would want to be part of that, you know. But it's funny when you look back at the players, you know, that Tommy Gemmell or Willie Wallace or some of these characters, you know, even back then they looked older, you know. They looked older than it's sort of like that big mug on him, you know.
Centenary year, Tony. Roy Aitken.
Yeah.
He's 28.
Yeah.
You know, you think, really?
Yeah, they certainly see there's a maturity about them, and obviously, Feed the Bear, you know, that I think Roy Aitken's hair at the time, he had this big fro, didn't he? This amazing sort of do. But, you know, I guess the different times, John, you know, tough times. No moisturiser back then.
No, the big question is, should that movie ever see the light of day, who do you play?
Oh, look at that. There you go. That's the go. If I was ever fortunate enough to be part of that would be I don't know. Some friends of mine said you look like Tommy Gemmell with that big conch of mine, you know, or Willie Wallace or someone like that. But I mean, you've done films the Nottingham Forest film, didn't they? They did it about
that was incredible.
That was wonderful, wasn't it? Michael Sheen.
Brilliant.
So if there was a story, I think it would be very moving and very poignant, and it would be a great celebration of what Celtic is about. And I think it would be more about maybe they're calling me now. Maybe they're going to offer me a role or something. Is that
Scorsese?
Is that tell him I'm in. If I can go on about that, I think it'd be a story that wouldn't. I think would be interesting for not just Celtic fans, but just for anybody really. I think if you tell a story about a club but if it has if there's an attachment that people can relate to, not just because it's Celtic, but just because I think the sort of the foundation of Celtic and where Celtic came from and what we sort of stand for with charity and Brother Walfrid and, you know, Irish immigrants coming over and try to find a home because they were displaced from their own home, and the welcome from some areas that they got in the west coast of Scotland is a very I think maybe it's a very important story to tell, you know, and people can relate to that no matter where they come from.
Is that the same when you're over in the States and you speak to people who maybe don't know Celtic? I love these pictures you see on social media with yourself and others who are introducing the club to big Hollywood actors. How do you do that? How do you sell this fairy tale, and how well received is it?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think one of the first things that people notice is the ferocity of passion that you may display, especially when you go, hey, do you want to come to a football game? You know, and a friend of mine who my daughters go to the same school. We were up in a place called Mammoth one time, and he's skiing actually, and he's like, I said, there's a Celtic Rangers game on, do you want to come? And he's like, aye, sure. What time is it? And I said, it's 4 o'clock, you know. And he went, we can go for a bit on the mountain and then come down and get a wee drink. And I said, no, it's 4 a.m. And he went, what? It's 4 a.m. So bless him, he's a friend David, and he ended up prepping some Bloody Marys, and we got up at 3:30, went into this hotel lobby and watched a Celtic game, and then he's a Browns fan, he's a Cleveland Browns fan, which is another story, but they haven't won for a while. So anyway, he could relate to we weren't doing too well at that point, but he definitely saw the fervour, and I just think when you start talking about Celtic to people and your sort of relationship to your club, and especially living away from Glasgow and living away from Scotland, which I miss. I mean, it's been difficult recently, been away for so long, but because it's been almost 3 years. But I think the passion that people display, and because when I finish jobs, sometimes the directors I've worked with, I end up buying them a Celtic top, you know. And they're like, oh, okay, thanks, man. You know, they're like, you know, Lakers fans, or they're like American football, but by the end of the job or the gig, they're like, all right, yeah, no, up the Celtic, you know.
I love that. I love spreading the words, and as you say, sometimes it's natural because you're showing the passion. You have been involved in movies where it's superhero movies. Mm-hmm. Who was your Celtic superheroes?
Well, that's a great question. Well, I mean, I'm looking at a picture right now of Danny McGrain there, you know, definitely there's no, obviously the connection we had to my papa, Tommy Riley. But I mean, gosh, you think about Tommy Burns as well, and that centenary season. I mean, my earliest memories. Paul McStay as well, obviously, is the maestro. But you looking further back, I mean, Jinky Johnston, it was always the wizard, you know, on the wing, you know, was always one of my, that. He's a fellow ginger, you know. that just I think for many Celtic fans that, you know, that love the beautiful game, a winger is always an attractive, someone to watch who can beat players and take it down the line, cross it, or just go a cut inside, shoot, and so on. I think Jinky Johnson has always been someone. I met him many, many years ago, and it's just, I mean, obviously with Bertie's passing, it's a very, you know, everybody's, you know, a heart. Everybody will go out to his family right now, but I think that the whole vibe about the Lisbon Lions and the romanticism that you mentioned about Celtic is this sort of collective humanity and warmth about all those guys, you know, Bobby Lennox and Clark and Willie Wallace, Tommy Gemmell, and whenever you met them, you know, you kind of felt like they were your uncles, you know. They kind of felt like family. They didn't, all right, what do you want? You know, there was always, do you want an autograph or do you want a picture, son? Certainly with Bertie Auld, he was, I don't even if you can say arguably one of the most gregarious Lions Celtic players that ever was, you know, and he was always ready with a story, taking the mick, always in good humour, and just I met him in Vegas once, actually, yeah, but just a joy to be around. But my nephew, if I can go on about Barry, I've mentioned before, he was talking to him about my papa, and he said, I tweeted it the other night, I said, Tommy Riley, one of the most well-dressed men I've ever met, you know, with the beautiful cufflinks and, you know, just impeccably dressed, son, impeccably dressed. So what happened to you? You know, so he was always, you know, he's the king of the one-liners, but the warmth of those players has always been a huge factor of being a Celtic fan.
It's incredible. They make you feel special, don't they, when you meet them?
Yeah, no, totally. They don't feel like airs or graces. No airs or graces. When you were talking about that in the show this week, there's just a sort of a great warmth and a great like they were living their dream, you know. Like Bobby Lennox's, you know, statue. That's that beautiful statue that I saw recently. Is it in Saltcoats? Is it? Yeah. Bobby Lennox's smile, you know, when you meet those guys, you know, it was just I mean, they're first, you know, Northern European team, British team, whatever you want to call it, to win the big cup from a 30-mile radius from Glasgow. I mean, the likes of that had never been done, and it's probably never going to be done again. So
definitely, we had a conversation the other week. It was tongue in cheek, but I've always thought Bertie Auld has the movie star looks. He could have been in a gangster movie, Tony.
Oh, yeah, he did. I mean, as funny as Bertie was, and he's all right, son, you know. But when he looked at you, you know, when he was he's sort of, he's turned a phrase, you know. He's you only want to mess with him, you know. Well, he'd some engine on him as a football player as well, you know. But beautiful hair as well, you know.
Oh, absolutely, with a brow cream. Brilliant. Absolutely. Now, when we talk about your own career, your movie career, when did you realise yourself, Tony, that this was for me? I'm an actor, I want to do this.
That's a good question. Actually, apparently my mum tells me a story when I was 3 years old, and there was an insurance man who came to our house one day, and I was sitting there just playing around, and he said, all right, Tony, what do you want to do, son? Do you want to be a fireman or a doctor or a plumber? And apparently, of course, I don't recall this, but my mother assures me. I said it, and I said, oh, no. I stood up defiantly. I said, oh, I'm going to be an actor. So I don't know where that came from, but when I was 14 years old, I went to Holyrood Secondary School in the South Side. Before that, St Fillan's was my primary school. But when I was 14 years old, I got an opportunity to do a TV show with Davy Mackay, actually, who's a big Celtic man called Stookie.
I remember it.
Yeah, always ready to take a chance. Catchy music there. And so
there was a few Celtic jerseys in that show.
There was, yeah. And Lenny O'Malley was another Celtic man in it. There was a few, yeah. I think David Mackay definitely made sure that Stookie was a Celtic man. But that was the first gig that I ever got, like television gig. I'd done some theatre, but I was fortunate enough to go on from that to go to drama school at Royal Scottish Academy, and then I went to Edinburgh, did a lot of theatre, and moved to London, and I didn't make a conscious choice to leave the UK and go to California, but did a film, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, in the Czech Republic. Sadly, it was Sean Connery's last film, but I worked with some Brits and some Europeans, Americans over there, and they said, come to LA, and I ended up selling my house and then moving over there, and I seemed to get work, so I just sort of just seems to continue from there. But no, it's been I've been very lucky, you know. Like God bless Bertie Auld, what he says from his upbringing. You know, he feels very fortunate, like Tommy Burns and the Tommy Burns story, saying, you know, I'm living the dream, you know. So I'm definitely very I think I'm a humble person, you know, to be quite honestly, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunities I've been given. But people say, you've been lucky, son. And I'm like, yeah, I have been lucky, but at the same time you make your own luck, do you know what I mean? So I hope it continues.
I hope so as well. One final question, Tony, is as a Celtic fan growing up, you hear the stories of the Lions and the teams that have gone before, and I think about the team that stopped the 10. I think about Martin O'Neill's era, Brendan Rodgers' era, and, you know, a quadruple treble, 9 in a row. We're moving into a new era with Ange. I like what I hear. I've liked a lot of what I've seen. Where do you think Ange Postecoglou can take us?
Yeah, I mean, that's yet to be written, obviously, but listening to the show this week and listening to Ange a few days ago, the AGM and the conversation that he had, and he had time for everybody, he answered everybody's question. He appears to me to be a man who's very comfortable in his own skin, and he seems to have wonderful integrity, the man, wonderful humanity, and his sort of values that he talks about, not just as a football manager, but as a human being, as a man. They seem to very much mirror like Celtic's philosophy, doctrine, you know, values, and he, you know, as you mentioned on the show, he gets it, you know, and I think him as a man and also him as a football manager are really a match made in heaven right now for Celtic, you know. I mean, some of the football we've been playing, the players that he signed, you know, I mean, obviously Kyogo and Jota and are the players and playing the way that Celtic fans want to see us play, you know, with that sort of rapier, you know, cut and thrust to their play, and also we seem to be defending quite well as well, which is also an important factor in winning trophies. So I think Ange Postecoglou is in a very good place right now, and I think Celtic are in a very good place. We're in a semi-final today. We're still in Europe. We've been playing some really good football. Some fantastic goals have been scoring, and I think that also if he can get invested with the you know with the background as well of you know up the stairs with the suits as well, obviously. Don McKay even was a bit of a shock to the system. He'd not been there very long, and that's something that I think that there's a transparency that maybe hopefully needs to happen more with the Celtic support and the board, because obviously last season wasn't fun, and I think that Ange has a way about him that if he can make that connection, you know, more seamless, then I think that it'd be good for Celtic going forward, you know. I mean, he seems like a lovely human being, doesn't he? Don't you think? You know,
and he likes to engage with the Celtic fans when he's out and about.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah,
as well. Declan McConville has met him a few times.
Oh yeah,
Tony.
Declan, that's brilliant. I met him the other night at Heritage. He's a great lad, and yeah, brilliant.
Brilliant. Now, I need to thank you once again for supporting ACSOM. We really appreciate that, Tony. But thank you once again for joining us on a Celtic State of Mind.
Hail, hail.